Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being in this session. We're excited to have you here explore these data pathfinders with us. So first, to tell you who we are, I'm Cindy Hall. I'm the community, I guess I need to speak in the mic. I'm Cindy Hall. I'm the community coordinator for the Earth Science Data Systems program. This is Paula Land up here. She's our lead content strategist. Teddy Gelibert is our web strategist, and Kevin Ward is our fearless leader. And to give you a little information about what the Earth Science Data Systems program does, it actually builds and maintains systems that collect, store, and deliver petabytes of multidisciplinary data. And the unique thing about the system, at least through the search client, is you have access to all of NASA's Earth Science data collections, regardless of where they are archived. So if you're familiar with how NASA works, the data after the mission's launched and that data comes back down to us, it's processed at various levels, and then the distributed active archive centers actually store and archive all of that data. And they're distributed, so they're across the US. So this system actually brings together all of this data into kind of like a one-stop shop. Earthdata.nasa.gov provides access to this information through and a wealth of data through search and discovery tools as well as open APIs. If you've ever been to the Earthdata site, it looks pretty straightforward, right? You just click on Find Data right there if you want to get to the data. Well, once I go to the client, and I know we have a lot of the search client folks in here, I've narrowed down to just atmospheric data sets, and there are over 2,500 collections. If you don't have an expert knowledge of the data sets and what you might want to use and the tools to access and then analyze that data, this can be a bit complex and daunting, especially for a novice user. We've done some customer satisfaction surveys in 2017 and 2018. And what these showed is that users agree that product selection is an even higher priority than product search. If product selection was a challenge for the majority of the folks the respondents of this survey, 85% of which were academia, they may not be expert data users, but at least they have some knowledge of Earth data because they filled out this survey. You know that this is going to be a problem for novice data users. In addition, a DAC working group also noted the need to create a beginner's guide to discover and access NASA Earth Science data, information, services, and tools via Earthdata website. So we've kind of taken on this challenge from a content perspective on the website to develop a series of data pathfinders. And these data pathfinders, first of all, are product selection guides. And they're based on science disciplines or application themes. So you can see two of them listed here. We have one for wildfires and then health and air quality data.
What is the product selection? Just tell me which data sets to choose in certain applications.
Yes, exactly. So the question was I want to repeat this. We have a couple of people online. What is product selection? So after you do your search, again, if you have 2,000 collections, how do you know which one to select? And we're going to provide some guidance on that. So these data pathfinders also provide direct links to the most commonly used data sets. And you might ask how we came up with that information. We have been talking to the community. So for example, using health and air quality, we've gone to several meetings, listened to that community, what their needs are and what data sets they're typically using. In addition, we've talked to the Applied Sciences RSET training program and what data sets they are getting the most inquiries about, and then which ones they're focusing on in their trainings. So from that information, we chose then the most commonly used data sets. We also provide background information in these pathfinders, applications of the data, and the benefits and challenges of using remotely sensed data. Lastly, the data pathfinders provide direct links to tools, which provide varying ways of subsetting or visualizing the data, with the option to even save the data in different file formats. Panoply and Giovanni being two that are probably most commonly referenced. We have 3 pathfinders that we've developed so far. The first of which is agricultural and water resources. And you can see from these blue rectangles, which are actually accordions on the website, so you can open up depending on what your interests are. So we have land, water, and vegetation. So that's kind of how we initially are presenting this information. We have drought-specific resources, water management resources. We have a health and air quality data pathfinder, and you can see in these accordions we're focused on aerosol optical depth, AOD to PM 2.5, or particulate matter in the less than 2.5. Trace gases such as nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, ozone, carbon monoxide, pollutant transport, and then some information on public health. So some entities that are actually using NASA data to partnering with public health institutions to maybe make a connection there. And then lastly, we have a wildfires pathfinder, and we broke this up into risk and response. So this is most of our near real-time data that NASA provides, fire forecasting, and then post-fire impacts. With all of these, you can see that we also have other NASA assets of interest. So these include things like the distributed active archive centers, and if they have data that is particularly pertinent to this application area. We provide links to citizen science projects that are funded through the Earth Science Data Systems program. We provide links to numerous other NASA-related resources. In some instances where outside organizations are using NASA data, the Group for Earth Observations has a series of, there's a series of application areas that they're focused on. If they're using NASA data in those applications, we might point to those as well. And then we also provide not tutorials on using the tools, but just provide access to some of the tools and some basic information on how to access those tools within links to the tutorials. Here is an example of the health and quality trace gases opened up. And within each of these accordions, we link to science quality data from Earthdata Search. So that's the search client that returns all of the data sets. We specifically link to, again, the most commonly used data sets for nitrogen dioxide. Oops. So it may be TRPOMI or OMI, the ozone monitoring instrument, or what have you. We also provide links to data within tools, such as Giovanni, and then again, visualizations of the data in Worldview. And again, those are all direct links, so you go straight to the data set that is indicated there. So in this session today, we need your help, basically. One of the pathfinders, wildfires, has been reviewed by subject matter experts and is actually published. The other 2 are under review by subject matter experts. And we want to get feedback from this community on a few different things, whether or not you think they might be effective for novice data users. Again, we know that expert data users are probably going straight to the data and don't need help in this manner. But if a novice data user came to our site, would this maybe help them get to where they needed to be? The format, we have it in a specific format right now. We want to know from you if that's a good format. We are restricted based on our content management system, but that may, we are open to suggestions and things of that nature. There are a series of other questions that we'll be asking you, but for right now, I want to find out a little bit more about who's in the room. So we'd like to quickly answer these questions: who you are, from what organization and what role do you have in that organization? And if you currently use NASA Earth Science data, if so, for what purpose?
I'm Deborah Smith. I'm the lead of the Airborne Data Management Group. And my role is to get airborne data more widely used and noticed and discovered and appreciated. And I do use NASA Earth Science data, mostly at this point, since I'm managing project, more for fun and looking at it and sharing with others.
I'm somewhat related to this effort. I don't actually use data. I'm responsible for some of the management of the effort for the Earthdata website. So, yeah, who the hell am I? I'm Steve Barrick. I think I recognize some of you. Yeah.
I'm Ross Bagwell. I know most of you guys. Work with Estes project in NASA Goddard and pretty much at the center of Earthdata.
So I'm Stefan Kling. I support Estes on my main technical area is working on the Google Analytics and the web metrics tracking the effort. So I don't particularly use the data myself.
Hi, I'm Christian Alfer from the University of Arizona. I'm developing a drone sensor processing pipeline for agriculture. So my interest is, I don't use any of the data, but my interest is in managing large, huge data sets, petabytes of data and things like that.
Hi, I'm Kathy Carr. I work on the EED program supporting Estes, and I'm the product manager for the data use part. So that includes Earthdata and it includes Earthdata search.
Hi, I'm Jeff Ciardo. I also work on the EED2 program as the UI UX lead for, well, the EED2 program.
He's also the designer of Earthdata Search. He's being modest. I'm Mark Reese. I'm the product owner of Earthdata Search. I don't use the data, but I interact with lots of folks that use the data.
Hi, I'm Ryan Abbott, also ED2. I am a developer on Earthdata Search.
Yeah, sorry. I'm Valerie Dixon. I am NASA Estes. EED is our main contractor who makes everything happen for us. I am the manager for CMR, so the metadata, including the Earthdata Search client.
Jacqueline Lemoigne. I am with the Earth Science Technology Office, ESTO, and I am the deputy for new observing strategies in the AIST program, which is Advanced Information System Technology program. And I am not using directly the data, but all of our PIs are.
Hi, my name's Kristen Whitney. I'm at Chapman University, and I'm working with MODIS data in assessing wildfire risk. However, I haven't used Earthdata.
Hi, I'm Carly Lozier. I work at the Goddard DAC, hydrology data and a lot of metadata stuff too.
Hi, I'm Tyler Stevens. I'm also on the EED2 program supported in Estes. I'm on the metadata quality team and working on the metadata models and the GCMD keywords.
Hi, I'm Brendan McAndrew. I am the Applied Sciences Coordinator at NASA Goddard. So I use data, the ES data, just to sort of stay familiar with the data products. And basically our role is to support applied research efforts at Goddard by interacting with end user stakeholders, just to try and get this great data into decision-making pipelines.
Great, thank you so much for being here. So what we're going to do now is we want you to actually explore the Pathfinders a bit and try to access some of NASA's great Earth science data. We have 4 scenarios, and what we'd like for you to do is pick one. We're going to do kind of 4 corners of the room because we'll have you work in groups so that we can each be a part of one of your groups. The 4 scenarios are, we have one for agricultural resources. So basically, you aid a large-scale farm near Leesburg, Indiana, between South Bend and Fort Wayne, and their crop and irrigation planning. You are a data user interested in looking at changes in precipitation, temperature, soil moisture, and normalized difference vegetation index for the growing season. The second scenario has to do with water resources. So California was in a drought from around 2011 to 2017. You are a data user who would like to understand how this drought affected water resources, specifically looking at soil moisture, groundwater, and snowpack. Third scenario, health and air quality. You heard about a recent study from NASA linking emergency room visits for asthma to air pollution, specifically in South and East Asian countries, notably India and China. As a data user, you want to assess known sources of pollution, such as ozone, fine particulate matter through aerosol optical depth, and nitrogen dioxide. And then lastly, for wildfires, in August 2018, specifically around the 17th, fires ravaged the Northwest US, California, and British Columbia. In preparing for the upcoming fire season, you want to look at the movement of the smoke plume and the impact on aerosols in the atmosphere from this event. You also want to look at precipitation and soil moisture over time leading up to the event to understand the causes of the severity and intensity of the event. Find the data, including aerosol optical depth, precipitation, and soil moisture. So those are your tasks for this session, and we'll give you some time. If you have your own computer, that would be great. We have printouts that have QR codes or have the direct link. Again, these are on a site that is not going to be available. Wildfires is the only one that has been published. So right now, these are on a site that you can see, but they're not going to reside there for much longer. It's just for this session that we have those up there so that you can explore. So now if you'll kind of get into the 4 corners, we'll put wildfires in the back, agriculture up here, water up here, and health and air quality in the back. If you'll go to one of those and explore for a little bit. For those of you online, I am putting the URL up here so that you can explore on your own.
I want to sit over the shoulder of someone who's not. What's your name? Okay, yeah. Yeah. What's Kevin? Kevin Murphy? Okay. Yeah, that's then we want to say, so what the next step is, how do we actually find data? So, take a minute to look at it, to look at it, and then we can start that and answer some questions.
It's like to me, the logic was reversed. I want to do something.
How did you choose the data set that are used for? I just, we've done something similar to this where we try to group based on, we worry about event types, and we worry about excluding different missions that have the same type of data, and we're essentially choosing for them what they should be using. I don't know if we should go that far.
So that's one of the things we're trying in this model with interactions.
This is just to get started. Right. Yeah. Like this is a getting started guide, not a definitive. This is how you do this one. Yeah, I think
Well, right now, so first couple of weeks, wildfire.
somewhere in the path of getting that data, so we gotta get through a little bit more. Well, I just see them all other types.
So anything that's in CMR, okay. There are some so that takes the Right. Show it to your family first. Yeah. Officially or just? The title, I think it's data support scientist, but I work on actually on the LS projects, just for science support, but then I moved into data support.
Still 6 or 7. Okay, so I did your Indiana question and I gave you the $1,000 around Indiana, but not just the state. I did your rainfall question and then it gave the $1,000 that's bigger than Indiana because the state isn't quite there.
You just type in,
Yeah.
that's different.
Right. But it, I appreciate it.
Okay. I mean, it's still.
That's the starting data. All those are mountains. Everything is there. I do think we should deliver the data. My opinion is
If you're not logged in, it just how much you But that wasn't clear from the. I'm just taking the two notes, because I put it back. This is terrible. Okay. Oh, yeah. So this is a new thing. Well, before it was just open. And then they put limits on it. If you're not logged in. Just used to texting things out. We don't read anything that pops up. We don't.
Then there's something about storage. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's the magic record, that's it. And I just need to
Because you were sending us to drown with most. I didn't know that was.
Yeah, usually. But maybe you could make that available to see somebody. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know we are capturing measures.
So I like that they're not.
So, yeah, I'm trying to show you see what's going on.
Well, that's kind of my
They're promising things back here.
I mean, I know what it is.
That's why I'm sitting at this table. Okay, yeah, so, so they, it's, image capture system. Hey, cool. First responders, oh, you don't yes, that's right. They wanted me to stay there. Separation. But when you say collection, you would just starting out, so I'm pretty excited. But I'm excited as a learning curve because yeah. What does it all mean? The other thing. I was so proud of you. What we did, G was here. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to come back together as a group and have a little discussion about your findings. Okay.
Do you want to do it by groups, or do you want to just invite conversation generally?
What do you think?
Let's just maybe ask people general impressions and then just see who talks, and then I'll run around with this.
Okay. Let me see if anybody
We didn't end up going through the whole scenario very much.
we
It's a
didn't either.
conversation. That's kind of always what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. I like having the microphone. I feel like Oprah.
Okay, if I can get everybody's attention, I'm going to ask a few questions just to get us started, but then we'll just invite you to contribute some ideas, thoughts that you had. So first of all, how would you rate your experience with the data Pathfinders? How would you rate your experience and why? Was it a... Okay, how about 1 being poor and 5 being excellent? Your novice users, don't forget.
Be very honest, though. The whole goal
Yeah.
here is we are trying to learn.
except for the too much words. I would rate it as 4 because in a reasonable amount of time, I found soil moisture, groundwater, and snowpack. It wasn't, I didn't necessarily know what I was getting, but I was getting there.
What was the very first part? Was that too many words, too verbose?
Yeah, Deborah's first reaction looking at this was, this is way too much text to force me to read.
I did find myself scanning. I did find myself scanning the first top part of content to get down to the facets, or not the facets, the accordion. And so outside of some just general organization on the accordion, yeah, I would say 4. I thought it did a pretty good job of sort of framing the particular data sets for that domain well. We were air quality, health and air quality.
Mark, did you have something? Oh, okay. You were actually watching that group. Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say, I really like the tools section, especially because that's kind of the area I'm interested in. So it was good to see the tools that can be used to visualize, and the tools you can use to, for when you download data, and the tools you can use them in. And, we're on the project that I'm working on, we're kind of doing a similar effort where we're trying to, we have data products and we want to know what tools and services work with them. So I think there's some good, knowledge exchange that we can do with each other to kind of learn that. I know you've already gone out to different groups and people and the subject matter experts to learn about that. So it'd be good to hear about that part of this too, because I think that's like a really good thing for novice users too, to kind of see, oh, here's the data, I can read about it, but then how can I visualize it and see it?
Anyone else?
So I come in from knowing absolutely nothing about this. I found it to be, I think, I concur with accordion. It's a little wordy, and some of the things are mixed up together, but I didn't find it absolutely horrible. I was able to find precipitation and then go into that. After that, it got a little more wonkier because I didn't know what I was doing. But I think overall, now that I know how to do it, it's very straightforward. I thought it was pretty good. So I think the learning curve is a little bit more than I thought it would be, but now that I know it, it's like, oh yeah, I can get around.
And I'll mention that there is a lot of repetition within the accordions. And at first I was worried about that, but I think I heard from my group that actually is not bad, because once you kind of get the gist of, oh, science quality in this tool and then visualization, you kind of go from there, and it's the same in each of the sections. Would you agree with that? Okay.
I did just do a very quick skim, so this is my knee-jerk reaction. Especially if there's a lot of text somewhere on the page, I specifically look for some sort of main punch you in the face call to action. And I'm not seeing a call to action. I'm just seeing a lot of text links. So either within each accordion, I try to find like what's my big takeaway, and I can act on that one thing, or even like an overall like wildfire data, like send me to the tool. But a main call to action, I think, would be really helpful for novice users.
Yeah, terminology. Deborah, do you want to, or Steve, why don't you talk about the bring people in and let them recognize?
Oh, yeah. So this was mostly because of Deborah. The idea that once you come in, you want to be able to identify yourself as a user, see yourself. For instance, farmer, you ought to be able to see something near the top and say, oh, are you a farmer? Here's a sort of a direct connection to the user immediately without having to digest a lot of stuff. And perhaps you even have, oh, you're a farmer, maybe you're interested in this data. Some of the key 2, 3, whatever data sets that they might want to just jump off right then and there to, without having to read everything. And if you can probably capture a lot of the types of users that way, and for those who want to read on, they can. And those who you don't capture because you haven't identified them, they're an edge case. Well, that's all right too. You still capture as many as you can immediately. Hook them.
To do some of that at the very top. My problem is I went to that page and all I saw were like on my little laptop, like 3 paragraphs of text, and even the accordions were down off screen. So if I'm a novice user, yeah, everybody knows how to scroll now, but I come in and I see those paragraphs, I'm just like, oof. I roll my eyes saying this is scientific, I'm not going to understand it, and I move on. So put the approachable stuff up top. Are you a farmer and you're looking for the soil moisture of your fields? Here's a link. If you're a California resident, you're worried about water this summer, here's another link, or a couple links on the condition of the soil moisture in California right now, that kind of thing.
I will say, all of the research that we've done for Earthdata Search Client, specifically with novice users, is they feel overwhelmed by all of the options. So if we're doing these Pathfinders, I would say be strategic in those Pathfinders and limit to very useful ones, or again, framing that context, like this is not all paths, this is 2 or 3 paths, just to introduce you to the data, but being very selective and intentional.
And that would take identifying your most likely user for this and speaking to them. And yeah, you're not going to serve every need out there, and you're going to have users who it doesn't work for. But if you think if it's a water resources or a drought issue, who's the novice user who's going to be coming? It's going to be Western US residents, it's going to be farmers, it's going to be water resource guys. Now, how do you meet those 3 needs?
Yeah, I'll say one of the things that came out of this group's discussion too was making a really quick choice up front. So if people want more background and want to read more, they can, but get them more quickly, like a quick kind of pathway off to just, show me some data, get me there, or sure, I'll spend a little time and do a little more reading, right? That was kind of a,
So we've heard about some of the challenges. Are there ones that weren't mentioned that you'd like to bring up? What were some of your pain points going through the site?
Right. So I got to Giovanni and I had problems with Giovanni because of my data login, but sorry, better? Yeah. So I had some problems with Giovanni. The other thing is maybe putting the tools above the data. So I was like, okay, I got data, now what? And didn't realize that the tool section was down below until after.
That was mentioned in our group too. Someone brought that up. Yeah.
okay. We didn't talk about that, but.
Same here. I think color.
So she didn't even see the tool. So yeah.
So I think color would be something that would be good. And I think using color to differentiate. So, I also think having tools and then data in their own sections would be handy. You can also use color for that. And then for data quality, because there's a variety of data qualities or granularity, having some sort of, maybe a progress bar or, one of those charts that say whether you have better data or less data, just from a quality standpoint. So you can know, not necessarily from a temporal standpoint, but I think that would be handy to just visually distinguish what you might want to see or pick what you find.
That's a really interesting idea, but that quality, you got to be really careful with that one, because there's going to be a lot of scientists saying, how do you assess that data set got that quality? That's really going to be a difficult one to work with.
But I'm sure there could be some sort of measure that you find.
There's a whole community of people arguing about this. Okay.
About science. And we do talk about science quality data versus, Ross, you?
Yeah, so my concern was that, and I'm an insider, but we have somebody coming to NASA Earth Data looking for data. And in this case, we're looking for, our scenario was having to do with the drought. So we went to the drought tab that dropped down, or the accordion, and all the information there kicked us off of Earth Data and brought us over somewhere else. So here I am, a user, I go to NASA Earth Data, and I go into where it says drought on this Pathfinder. When I click on GeoGlam, I'm gone. I'm out of Earth Data, and now I'm sitting over in GeoGlam looking at a new tool, nowhere near getting to the data. And in my thought process, I'm like, well, I guess I'm trying to find data here. So I go to the top drop down, and I'm going to how to find their data. So Earth Data was nothing more than just saying goodbye, passing me through. And I don't think that's the intent of this. I think the intent should be, we're trying to find, water resource, drought, soil moisture, groundwater. So, and we have things. We have NSIDC for the snowpack. We have ASF potentially. Soil moisture, you've got IMERG and SMAP. There's a whole bunch of data. We shouldn't be saying goodbye and sending them to another site. So
in the other Pathfinders, those were kind of labeled as outside resources or something like that. Would that help?
There should be some kind of a caveat. So I work for Earth Data. We get Kayako requests, which are user tickets. They say, I really need to know about this earthquake. I write back to them and I say, that's not really a NASA purview. Our sister agency is the USGS, and here's their earthquake information site. And that's what we should be doing, is letting them know that if it's not something that NASA does carry in Earth Data, that, by the way, here's some places you can probably find that, or here's the experts. Rather than just saying, if I'm looking for drought, all 4 of the things had external resources, so I'm gone off of Earth Data, when I know for a fact, being an insider, that we have that NASA data.
Right, they're underwater in that. So maybe it's a naming thing. So they're underwater in that
I think
section.
the other point is if you're going to function as a broker to another agency or whatever, call it out as such. By the way, we don't have this data. We're going to send you over here. So that they know that you are helping them by sending them off somewhere else, as opposed to them perhaps clicking on something wrong or ending up, who knows. And it was also suggested that it be a separate tab, so that they can get back if they find that it's not what they want. But that's a perfectly good service, where you don't have something, if that were the case. And therefore, we're going to help you the best way we can by sending you where we think you can find what you want. But yeah, being transparent, right. Basically, it's transparency. Yeah.
Our group had a couple of comments. I don't know if, Jeff, you were the most talkative.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about keeping people on the Earth Data site or having them leave. Eventually, they're going to have to leave at some point because the Earth Data website is not the final repository of the data, or necessarily of, there's DAC sites that have more in-depth data. And so I do agree with some of the points that we need to call out when you're leaving this resource. I think there could be a debate about popping up a new tab. Technically, from a usability standpoint, that's not a good habit to get into, but I think that could be argued depending on the context. Where am I going with this? Yeah, I'm not sure. Eventually, I think everyone is going to leave the Earth Data site at some point. We're not necessarily the final bit of content that you're going to see. In some cases, we are, but for these Pathfinders, you are kind of funneling people out to other pieces of data, or to other pieces of information and other data. But yeah, to Ross's point, getting thrown into Giovanni with no context, or getting thrown into Earth Data Search with no context, or some of the other tools, you're going to stop people in their tracks there. But I don't really, what is the other option? Eventually, if they want to get to that data, they are going to have to go there.
Well, what it kind of says is maybe those tools, once they get there, need a little more help context within the tools too.
There's more to this than just like other things need to be fixed and updated outside.
Yeah, I think our main focus was like when you got sent to a NOAA site and you got sent to a USDA site as opposed to another DAC. Right, out of the Estes NASA realm, that's where we were coming from.
That makes a little bit.
The other thing is keep that transparency up. It could say, instead of just soil moisture and you click it and it takes you out and away, it could say, again, that it's NASA doesn't have, or it does, here's some NASA soil moisture data sets, but here's also some other great data sets at other institutions, and then say, at such and such institution, boom, and then they click on it and they're off. Just that clarity in communication.
And the Earthdata site should have like a little external link.
Yeah, but
fairly common.
I didn't know what that was.
So I was in this block saying drought. We have the data. I was in this block saying drought, and there was all 4 resources kicked you off of Earthdata. And I know eventually. Yeah, I mean, that's why we created the site. Right. Specific. Right.
That's going to come up in peer review, SME review. This content is being reviewed by subject matter experts. So I would imagine that that stuff would get caught at that stage.
But I come back to my trying to wrap my head around the main purpose here. Is it to be a NASA Pathfinder to get through? Or is it to be a Pathfinder for what? And your responsibility is then not just to serve NASA data, but to serve this, to point to these other data sets. Which is it you're trying to do? Because I'm not clear.
It is a NASA Pathfinder. So the idea is to keep people on NASA site. I think with Ross's comment, we do have all this data in that Pathfinder. I think it's a naming thing. Like I need to be more explicit about the fact that you're going out. These are outside resources that are useful, like Drought Index is useful for users. But they may find a resource outside to do that. Whereas the NASA data, they are there. I think it's a naming thing, but I think that's a great point, that to make sure you're being very explicit about where you're going, because we do want to keep them on the NASA site, specifically Earthdata. We want to try to keep them there as long as we feasibly can.
Yeah.
I went to agriculture and water resources. I'm a farmer user, so I don't know much about it. I scroll down and I see it says drought specific resources.
Yeah, I think we just need, from an editorial perspective, maybe to look at kind of how it's chunked up a bit, because as you know, the NASA resources are there, they're just not repeated in that accordion. So keep in mind the fact that you're looking at it on SIT means that this is not a final product.
I think another thing that we had talked about briefly is, at least in my experience, I think we make a lot of anecdotal or gut decisions with content, with text, where we don't really do that with a lot of other things. We say, show me the data, right? I think we should be doing the same thing for designs and content. We talked about kind of exploring different ways to A/B test. We can A/B test content, we can A/B test designs, call to actions. The technical pieces to do that are very easy. So I think that we should get in, kind of remind ourselves to make data-backed decisions rather than, well, this is the way that we've always done it, or I think a user wants this, let's collect some data and then let that inform our decisions.
Yeah, it would have been, our hope was to have more people in this session who were not insiders so that we would get a little bit more sort of external feedback, but yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we literally have, half the room work for Earthdata, so.
We don't have much time left, but we've heard a lot from this side of the room. Does anyone on this side want any thoughts to share? Any feedback?
That's true.
Okay, so I'm an outsider user. So my first thing, I think this is really great for people who are new to remote sensing data in general and really great for students. But again, kind of like you mentioned, have the tools more on top, that type of thing. But I thought this was really great in general, so.
See, when you're not an insider.
We didn't pay her either.
Well, we are here this is the whole point, right? We're trying to get very honest feedback, so.
I would agree that, I mean, this is a great starting point. We're not saying this isn't working at all for us. We're talking about refining the details, making it easier. So I think it's definitely on the right track, and yeah, you should feel good about that. Yeah, so if you don't already.
All right, so I have one last sort of incendiary comment to sort of close things out. How would we feel about potentially replacing science disciplines with the Pathfinders? Or at least,
So yeah, explain that.
oh, sorry, again.
That was my question. So
Yeah.
My question to the group was, how are people getting to the Pathfinder? Do you need to know that the Pathfinder exists? What's the front door for that?
They're in the learn section. So again, I should say this is kind of one of the new content types we're developing to build out the learn section. With our group, our team's mission is to expand the audience and reach more novice people. So we're really focused on that learn section, so that's where you get to now. But that doesn't mean it's
How do we answer your question? Because the answer to your question lies in what's our use case for the Earth design engineering.
Yeah, okay.
What's the main person from that? What are our personas, right? What are our personas, and how are we ranking them as far as like the ones that we want to cater to the most? And if it's novice users, the person we want to impart, and maybe these are campaigns that like for this period of time, we're focusing on novice users who want to transition them to a different persona, right? Through education.
Yeah, I've updated my question. Are you guys going to revisit the personas for the Earthdata website? Are you considering them in these in this writing or design decisions?
That's why we need to talk. So we have been looking at personas and audiences, but we need to do some information sharing, and definitely agree with prioritizing audiences. Although I don't think anyone is anywhere close to saying that the primary audience is going to be novice people for the entire Earthdata website. But we are definitely trying to make it more accessible to newer users and expand reach where we can. And this kind of content is just one of the things we're trying to do, which is help people learn. Yeah, it's under the learn section. And as I said, we're trying to build this out. Yeah.
Maybe my answer to your question is no, we don't replace the science disciplines with this, because that could be for the scientists and speak in science speak, but this focuses on a different dialect of language that says, I'm speaking to the general novice user and here's how I speak to them. That's different.
Yeah, as you go down this path, I wouldn't even lock yourself into those science disciplines. Not to say that you need to replace it with learning paths, but maybe you replace it with identify yourself. I'm a scientist or I'm an novice or I'm a HQ representative. Like, those are 3 personas that we absolutely need to serve, and HQ's not being served by those scientists.
Well, I will say that was part of the thinking behind the new top nav, which is if you are a scientist, you're going to go to data. You are a novice or you're a student or whatever, you're going to go to learn. That's going to be your entry point. If you are interested in, just learning about the organization or whatever, you're going to go to about. If you are.
We've waded way down into something other than.
Yeah, sorry. We need to have a whole separate meeting about that stuff. Yeah.
The lady back there and then the gentleman right here had a comment. Didn't you have a comment?
Did you have a comment?
No,
Oh,
right here.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, I couldn't find the Pathfinder without the URL. I first went to Earth Science Disciplines and thought it'd be under there because it's just little. Now I see it little under user resources, but I don't think I would have found it.
And I think the idea is we will link them from as many places as we can, like the disciplines. We're also working on a getting started button here, which will go to a getting started page that will then link off to those as well. So, and then this gentleman right here.
Was it you? Oh, okay.
I think I was going to weigh in on
Any final comments? We have 3 minutes left. If not, I want to thank you so much for being here and helping us. By doing this, you're helping us make this data more accessible to all types of users. So we really appreciate your time and energy you put into this. So thank you.